Now, who's done really well over the last 24 hours? It is Mantra Ohm. And that's an interesting one because look at that chart on the right here. But now you can't see it. Hold on, let me, that's probably good. Mantra had such a weird week. Let that pull up there. Yeah, that's the 1 day. We got to pull up the 7 day here. Sentiment at 60%. That's pretty impressive considering this happened. In fact, why don't we, I read about this, but I just can't remember exactly. After Mantra suffered a 90% collapse, co-founder JP Mullins joins Coinage to explain what went wrong. Now, the video is gone for some reason. I'm not really sure why. Mantra co-founder John Patrick Mullins says he was asleep when the Ohm token's sell-off started. By the time he woke up in his hotel room, the token powering his real-world asset-focused blockchain has already crashed by more than 80%, wiping out billions in market cap on paper and sparking confusion across the crypto world. Mullen joined Coinage for a new interview to shed light on decisions that were made into the collapse, which he attributes to massive forced liquidations in a low liquidity environment on a Sunday night. But the uncomfortable truth for the entire crypto industry may be that much of what unfolded in a day may stem from the project's own decisions in the years leading up to this weekend, the ones that countless other projects have similarly made around token structure, liquidity, transparency for holders. I guess that's, I'm trying to parse out what that actually means because I understand. Oh, geez. You know what, guys? I gotta, I'll be right back, okay? Give me 5 minutes. All right, sorry about that. Actually, let's go back to here. So here's the thing, but you can't just throw out something like this, saying the project's own decisions in the years leading up to the weekend, the ones that countless other projects have made around token structure, liquidity, transparency. You have to, that doesn't tell me anything. If you're gonna put something like that out there, I think you got to say what it is, what happened. What about the tokenization made it that way? You're not really saying anything. Mantra's investors, Mullen, and the project have so far been united in their defense that the Ohm token collapse was not triggered by any insider selling, but rather by a mass liquidation on one exchange. But Mullen declined the name to name the exchange in question. Well, why not just say it? People are going to find it out. A little on-chain sleuthing could probably figure out where it happened. So why not just tell people and save us the trouble? That's really strange. These were all clean, fresh, unmarked wallets. I label all the wallets that I'm aware of on Etherscan so I could easily track everything. Okay, here lies the problem. Mantra was a bit unique in the sense that not only did it have native tokens on its own layer 1 blockchain since last year, but also millions of Ohm tokens were launched years earlier as ERC20 tokens on the Ethereum blockchain. Okay, so that's a real concrete thing. I find this really frustrating, and I know why they do it, okay? I know why they do it. There's a reason why they do this, because Algorand had the same thing. When LimeWire launched on Algorand, everyone was really, really excited. They thought, oh, LimeWire's back. This is awesome. And it's great. They're going to be using Algorand. Awesome. First thing they do, their first batch of NFTs were launched on Ethereum. Why? It's crazy. Why would you do that? So, we're all excited about Algorand, and then it's like, oh, but this is going to be on Ethereum. It's like, and they got money from the foundation too. I can tell you that Algorand folks were not happy. Now, this was a couple years ago now. They were not happy. So it's fine. Okay, so then it says, yeah, Mantra had set up the ability for users to bridge tokens to various other blockchains, including Polygon, Base, and Mantra's own L1. I mean, that's fine. I don't mind bridging, but if you're going to launch a coin, just launch a damn coin. Launch a damn layer 1. Don't sit there and be like, oh, we're starting this new thing, but we're also going to rely on Ethereum. I mean, this is why I can't take some of these projects seriously. This is just a bad idea. Algorand launched, and it's just Algorand. That's all it is. That's what it should be. Anyway, after the collapse, Binance, which had listed Ohm, tried to clarify that it had taken issue with Mantra's token supply in January and had warned users on its site. Since January this year, Binance had also issued a pop-up warning for Ohm on its spot trading page to inform users that the token has undergone significant changes to its tokenomics and increased its supply, the exchange wrote on X. Mullen rejected any suggestion of artificial price manipulation, saying, we never engaged in any sort of pumping of the price or pumping of the token with our market making partners. This is not how it works. But even he concedes the obvious. I don't think the positions that market makers had were capable of handling this massive forced selling. I'm sorry, am I missing it? What's the forced selling? Is it that it's the exchange, but why? Why was there a mass liquidation? Did they decide, you know what, we don't want to deal with this coin? Is that what happened? JP Mullen says, I mean, 99.9% of the crypto industry thought we were dead. At this point, happy. We had more than 15 people voting on governance in those days. Either way, supply doubled over 5 months ago. The market, this is from April 10th. The market knew about it for years. This isn't new. Not new. It's not, okay, hold on. There's not a lawsuit around Algorand. There's other Algorand and other crypto news. It's not, I didn't say it was Algorand. I have Bitcoin, I have Algorand, and I have Hedera on the cover. To make that clear that this is not just a Algorand video. Anyway, it's not new, but the effects haven't become apparent yet. Anyways, I would always expect you to go around tweeting to the community, OM is a bad investment, but it's something they should probably know. Or I wouldn't expect you to do that. I know, so shouldn't and don't tweet. Yeah, me too, yeah. Glad there's no lawsuit on. No, it's another platform. It's a really big platform on Coinbase. It's on Coinbase. I already talked about that at the beginning of the show, so I can tease it up like that. Yeah, Coinbase is facing another lawsuit, and we'll show from who in a minute. Actually, Algorand's been pretty devoid of lawsuits. I know there was that snafu with Arlington Capital, but I don't think there was any lawsuit. There was like an NDA that covers it. Anyway, haha, I also shouldn't and don't tweet OM is a good investment. That's also not good. Either way, we've been transparent with our tokenomics from day one since release, and recently released another report for the community. Just 3 days later, $5 billion in paper value is erased as OM cratered. So this was right before it cratered. And that's what happened. So basically it was an exchange that decided to just liquidate. But it's kind of surprising to me. Does he say more? I'm just really curious about this. There's a little thing here, so I'm gonna put on my headphones and let's watch this video.
Market value aside, this is not something that I would ever feel relieved about.
Okay, this is a really long video, so I don't know how much we'll get through, but I just want to get to the explanation.
I mean, an unprecedented event happened. Many people lost money and got hurt. I'm hurt. I feel like our community is hurt. Our token holders are hurt. Our investors are hurt. And I feel responsible, even if I didn't do anything negligent or malicious or anything.
I am curious though, if your investors, when you say your investors are hurt, like I wonder if they're actually down necessarily, even if it is trading at 70 cents. Like you said, you've been through the
I think they're still not down. And that's why, again, investors who had liquid tokens still haven't sold any liquid tokens.
Welcome in, everybody, into another episode of Coinage. I'm your host, Zach Guzman, coming to you live from our Brooklyn studios here in New York City. A lot going on in crypto right now, but this weekend, the wider world is reacting to know what you guys have been trying to work on.
Yeah, here's where he starts talking about it, so we're going to skip ahead.
It's a layer one protocol tied to real world assets. You guys are based, I believe, in Dubai is where you spend most of your time, the UAE, in terms of who you've been working with, and what this project's all about is tokenizing real world assets. But before even your guys' layer one launched last year, there was basically years before that with the OM token as an ERC 20, I believe, in terms of Ethereum token being implied here. So why don't we go back to the beginning in terms of what went into this? Because as I was looking through it, there were a lot of tokens that were kind of on a bunch of different chains. I mean, I'm curious to know if you've identified more about, you mentioned an exchange here, who was kind of involved in terms of, if it's not your investors and you haven't sold, which again, to your point, I haven't seen that, but what did you learn more about kind of that piece of this?
Maybe I'll just kind of walk you through the founding of Mantra and how it all came to be, and then you can kind of understand the dynamics of the two, the ERC versus the main.
Okay, he's gonna make us go through the whole history. Like, I just want the answer.
Net coin, right? So Mantra was started in early 2020, during the middle of COVID, we launched Ohm ERC version August 18th, 2020. So it's almost a 5-year-old project at this stage. We got listed on Binance in March of 21. We'd initially launched as a DeFi protocol and built out some products in the early days. Obviously, we rode that kind of initial DeFi summer wave up, and we rode it all the way down to. Mantra suffered significant retraction where we were, at one point in 2023, going through the bear market, I think at 1.7 cents in October of 2023. Around the end of 2023 and beginning of 24, I met with some of our key partners now that we work with, including Sharuk, which is a UAE-based fund, and Laser Digital, which is the crypto arm of Nomura. And they kind of helped us raise some institutional capital to really bring this idea together of basically a permissioned DeFi protocol. And we've been going through licensing with VARA at the time, the Dubai regulator. We actually got our licensing issued earlier this year for the first ever DeFi licensing approval in history. And this other layer one blockchain that was meant for tokenization that had inbuilt compliance and permissioning and identity layers included. So around that time is when we came out and tried to put these token models together. They were initially going to be run separately. So we had the Mantra token on ERC, and we're initially going to launch the chain called Omega, and we're going to have AUM token. And during this time is when we kind of brought those two things together. We had the community vote on this, and they said, hey, we would prefer to have all of the support for OM, rather than two tokens. And that's when these things came together, and we started working on how can we develop an institutional real world asset business in the UAE. We had some major announcements over the last months with MAG, with Damak Group for our real estate initiatives. We obviously got our licensing in Dubai with VARA. And we launched our chain at the end of last year. So around that time is when the chain launched. We started going through a bridging process. And, now we basically have the ERC token, which at the time when we launched the chain was, I think, 95, 96% in circulation. Now it's like 98% in circulation. It was a hard capped ERC token, 8888 million. All of that is obviously verifiable on Etherscan. You can see where the wallets sit. Many of them are exchanges and other labeled wallets. And then we also have a supply on the mainnet side. And on the mainnet side, the vast majority of these tokens are, locked in custody, including with, qualified custodians like Anchorage, and enforced vesting with these third parties. So all this stuff has been, verified. We have a transparency report we actually put out just last week. Because people were asking for some specifics and details. We'll continue to provide as much transparency about wallets and things as possible. But yeah, basically you have ERC tokens, and they've been bridged to, I think they're on Polygon through the Polygon POS bridge. Binance has,
I really feel like we don't need another coin. Like, can we just stop launching new coins? We don't need them. Unless it does something fundamentally different. We just simply do not need more tokens. Like, there's plenty out there. They work fine. Unless you have something that like absolutely shatters the technology standard, we just don't need it. And this is one more example of a coin that we don't need.
It has a BSC version of the Ohm token on BSC, and there's also a base Ohm, but it's all part of that existing ERC 8888 million supply.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what's interesting as I looked into this too, in terms of kind of some of the mirroring pieces as well. You took kind of some of those tokens and mirrored them to the new chain. If someone wanted to take tokens and these tokens existing on a could bridge, as it sounds like you were get liquidated, there can be a process. Someone out there on an exchange, they have a very large position. Exchange says, hey, you're going to get liquidated. There can be a process when that happens. It sounds like this basically was okay. That large position was liquidated, and then that floods the market with a bunch of Ohm tokens that then push the price down. And so, did you learn more about A, who that person may have been, B, which exchange, what that process looked? Were you notified before that liquidation took place?
So we'd been in touch with exchanges prior, asking about like, hey, when do tokens get put on exchange? Like, do you know these wallets? Do you know who this is, part of? And is it the team? Is it market makers, et cetera? So in this particular instance, we've been asked by several different exchanges what was going on. And this is not from like the last 24 hours, but this has been over the last, months actually. And we don't know. Particularly in the last 24 hours, we had been in touch with several exchanges asking about where these tokens are coming from us, on exchange from collateral, and they'd been coming from wallets that had been funded from other exchanges that were clean and fresh and had no connectivity to other wallets that I was aware of. At least I label all the wallets that I'm aware of on Etherscan, so I can easily track everything. And these were all clean, fresh, unmarked wallets. And we are aware of, what some of the exchanges that we think had a role to play in this, but I would refrain from commenting at the moment because together with our institutional investors and partners, we are exploring whatever legal recourse we may have to support our community and the investors who have been in our opinion harmed and wronged here. But it is clear that there was massive forced liquidations in a low liquidity environment on a Sunday night. Again, we haven't been in touch with these investors who were liquidated. We're in touch with our institutional partners like Sharuk and Laser and so on. But
to be clear, those partners have come out and said that they haven't also. Similarly, Sharuk and Laser Digital both posting saying that they weren't the ones who sold here. And so I guess, you've made mention a couple times of the low liquidity.
Okay, that's really interesting because I guess That video didn't really give us a lot of extra information that we didn't already know. So I guess I can take my, that's enough video. And if we get another video to watch, Yurav says, very true. I think this is the new trend of building true coins instead of using existing tokens efficiently. People are just building new tokens unnecessarily. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone, I actually feel kind of that way right now about DeFi protocols on Algorand too. Oh, hold on. I just realized, I feel like that way on DeFi protocols on Algorand too. Like, I just don't feel like they do anything useful. Like, we just don't need another staking platform. There's plenty out there. Unless you do something different, you're just adding to the noise. And so interesting. We'll talk about the Gainify situation because I learned some more about it. We'll kind of go through what that is. But let's get back to crypto prices. Yeah, and Mantra, like, so it's supposed to be an RWA coin. I wonder what RWA projects are actually doing, because we already have Algorand, and Algorand works really, really well. Europe says, Uvra, is it Uvra? Sorry, I might be mispronouncing it. I think this is a new trend, making new tokens instead of using the existing tokens efficiently. New way to raise money. Well, that's how I feel about a lot of the gaming projects too. Like, they just put out games. By the way, well, we'll get to that. We'll talk about Realms too, because Realms is kind of interesting.